Hello, my name is Paul Quarino. At present time, I'm taking care of the mighty Wurlitzer here at the Egyptian Theater. I played at a very famous place in Portland for 22 years, a place called the Organ Grinder that had a real big mighty Wurlitzer in it, in the pizza parlor. David used to come and bring his children to hear me in the 80s. I didn't know him. Lots and lots of memories. I'd worked on organs since I was 18 years old. I apprenticed with an organ man from Belgium. A father and son had their own business in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, way long ago. And I had a little organ in my mother's basement, my mom and dad's basement when I was a kid. One of these freaks, pipe organ in the basement. I was one of those nerd kids, you know. Everybody else was playing baseball. I was practicing the piano, and everybody else was driving cars, and I still had my bicycle. I didn't drive until I was 21. My parents were too strict. They didn't allow me to drive. Anyway, I understood all about pipe organs, and I started working on them, and our high school had a pipe organ in it, and so on. So in my generation, we learned from the old-timers who were still alive that played them in silent pictures. And I used to have a lot of friends that were in their 80s. Now that's my next birthday. I learned how to play silent movies from watching. These were still around. When I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the 50s, almost every theater still had the organ. And I was a kid. If you would go in and talk real nice, maybe the manager would let you look under the cloth. It didn't work, but often, if no one was around, I'd always sit in the front row. And as soon as the theater was over, I'd edge myself to see if I can climb over, or is there a way in? And I wanted to look more times than I can count on a hand grabbed me right here. Out! And all I want to do is look. Out! But I was a kid. But I knew there was an organ under there, not a piano. And it went like this, and they were red and yellow, but then I started seeing books and organ records came out. We got to keep it alive. Why? I don't know. But this is my assignment in life. Who assigned you? I don't know. I must have been programmed when I came. Upstairs told me I was going to be a musician. My dad wanted me to run his gas station. Yeah, I was going to work for my dad. I did all the oil changes and lubes. My dad's garage had a thing where you walk down the steps underneath.
The pit, yeah.
Anytime I went down and my dad went up, and I got it drained, and I was doing whatever you did, and all the grease, you did the lubes from underneath, and when you had the oil all out, you yelled up, "Dad, it's ready," and then he put Anyway, that's not what I was going to do. I had been playing the organ in church when I was 10 years old, and music. I majored in music at the University of Wisconsin. And here I am, the other end of my life, still fooling around with pipe organs. Wurlitzer built 2,243 of these pipe organs that were designed for silent picture accompaniment theaters. They built 2,243. About 50 are still playable. The rest went to the dump, to the scrap, to whatever. But there's about 50 of them working publicly. Some are in storage, but who wants them? But Wurlitzer wasn't the only brand name. Wurlitzer was the most famous because of an advertising department. Someday, maybe you live here, someday I'll show you some of the memorabilia. But one of the ads, they had a little girl or a little boy holding their mommy's hand, and they're walking into the lobby of a theater. And the person said, "Gee, Dad, it's a Wurlitzer." And that's still Wurlitzer's phrase. "Gee, Dad, it's a Wurlitzer." There's a little kid holding his mommy's hand, looking, and they're walking into the theater, and it's playing music. Gee, Dad, it's a Wurlitzer. Anyway, just like Jell-O, we remember. Kleenex tissue, it became a household name in those days. Even if it was another brand organ, it was a Wurlitzer. It was a thing. So it's a household thing from the days when that's the only music that was in this room when the theater opened. They didn't have microphones yet. You know how bigger is better? All the groups that had, if they had a 10-rank organ, they added a couple sets of pipes to make it bigger than they had over there in Altoona. And they were hot rodding and changing the organs and making them what they weren't. They were just doing what people do. Ours has got more ranks than yours. Ours is bigger than yours. Nobody was interested in preservation. It was having the biggest, the loudest and the biggest. And some of them would even raise the console up and add another manual, and this used to have 4 until 3 years ago. It had 4 manuals for 62 years. It's supposed to only have 3. It's supposed to be comfortable to play at, not reaching up for this odd duck that wasn't there. Go here once a week and work on this organ and this, and I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we had a theater there, and people in Portland and people, and they decided, hey, we ought to get together and form a national organization. So it was American Theater Organ Enthusiasts, the group, the chapter, the American Theater Organ Society, the Portland chapter. Well, that chapter came down. They talked to Mr. McSwain. We can bring a group down, and we want to go on a Friday, Saturday trip. And Sunday morning, we'd land in Coos Bay to your theater. On Saturday, we all stayed at the same motel on Saturday night, and there was 2 organs in Eugene we wanted to see. We saw one on the way down and one on the way back, and I came with that group. I fell in love with it in 1980. Yeah, May 18th, 1980, to be exact. The first time I met her, we call her Betsy. I call her Betsy. The only reason I remember the date, because on the way going home, Mount St. Helens erupted. But I was here with a group of people that came down from Portland, and we had the whole morning with the organ, and each one of us got to play it a little bit. Some of us played it twice, and when everybody had 2 turns, a few of us got to play it 3 times. And I noticed how terrible shape it was in. There was nobody working on it anymore. The mice there's mice have eaten everything up in the console. They eat the leather. They like leather. And it was re-leathered in 1961, and it's all shot again. And stuff up there is starting to fall apart. Less than half of it works, and the rest of it's broken. And I talked to her. I said, does anybody work on it? No, those 2 men that worked on it for years, one moved to Astoria, and the other one moved to Tigard, Portland up there. No, nobody works on it. I said, well, I might think about coming down and help you guys out and working on a couple of these things and officially taking care of it, unofficially. And it's a passion. There's only about 50 of these left working. Most people, it's a little far from Portland to come down to hear an organ that doesn't work very well when they heard one that worked fine. So I come down often. And they used to play the organ every Christmas. The second Saturday of the month, Lee Littlefield would play a Christmas program with a group of local musicians on the stage called the Christmas Brass. Most of them were musicians, music teachers. She would play a half hour, they'd play 20 minutes, she'd play another 10 minutes, they'd sing Christmas carols. And I would sit over in one of the seats over there, because that side used to act up the most, and I would be here while she played, so I could run up there and fix something if it acted upright while she was playing. So we just kept on doing our December concert with Lee playing. I'd come down when it needed work. She'd call me, and I'd come down just to keep it going. And I became attached to it. When I started playing occasionally, and I said, we really ought to try to restore this organ now. And I said, we need to take that top manual out and return it to 3 keyboards. And every year I'd say the same thing, but I didn't live here. I think it took them 15 years. Everybody twisted my arm, and eventually I moved here. I can play the mighty Wurlitzer any time of the day or night I want, within reason. They did trickery back then. They told the choir director at the Methodist Church that guy that works on our organ might move down here. Maybe he could be your organist. These girls arranged everything. They're always arranging me. And when I'd be in town over a Sunday, I'd go up there and play the service because they didn't play the organ. And I moved here, and here I am. Can't leave now. She's worn out, but the part that works, we keep redoing and we keep it up. And I know everybody at City Hall. They all know me as I can walk down the street and the city manager will still say, "Hi, Paul." And Benetti remembers me, and Crystal still says hello to me when she sees me at the post office. Crystal Soji, that mayor. I'm kind of a fixture. But this is just a piece of history. We got to keep it for the next generation. But it's nobody does it anymore. And if there's anybody around, nobody can afford them. They don't want to work on these. This doesn't sell any tickets. 100 years ago, it sold tickets. See, now it's just an oddity. It's still just here. And the better it plays, and how many generations have we gone by? But all these great-great-grandmothers were always here when this was the thing. But the thing is, it's still here, and we're supposed to keep it going. It's got to be here for the next generation. But I'm still showing as many people as I can how they work, what they do, and I just sit down and play because I've been playing for so long. I don't know who's telling me. I think I was built with that. I was built with that brain. I've got to take care of that organ for the next group of people.